Today on our 2015 Ford F53, this is the Tiffin Allegro, we're going to take a look at and show you how to install the SumoSprings Maxim custom helper springs. These are for the rear axle and offer a 5,600 pound capacity. Part number is SSR-183-54-1. Alright, here's what our spring looks like once we get it installed. As you can see, it's going to ride right on top of that leaf spring, and it's active at all times. So this is going to give us very light support, just slightly firm up our ride, slightly give us a little bit more side-to-side stability. Where it's really going to shine is when we start doing that cornering stuff, or that side-to-side. These work individually, so it's not like we have to set 1 PSI and live with it. The SumoSprings are made of a high-density microcellular urethane. What this does is it's going to operate in temperatures from negative 25 degrees all the way up to 200 degrees, so we really don't have to worry about temperatures. And also it's going to provide a really good damage resistance against oils and road salts, dirt, debris, grime, and stuff like that, that ultimately we're going to kick up as we're heading down the road. These are designed for lateral expansion, so up and down. We don't have a lot of the side-to-side expansion. They will get a little bit larger when compressed, but they work out really good in these tight spaces. And a great thing about them, we don't have to monitor air pressures. We don't have to make sure they're even, or we don't have to constantly adjust those for the load. All of that's taken care of in the design of the spring. Now basically this is going to be one side of our kit. The kit's going to come with 2 of everything that we see here, and it's going to allow for really easy installation other than just drilling a few holes. This is our lower bracket. This catch is made to fit behind one of the U-bolts on our spring pack, and then we're going to have the plate that's going to be secured on the bottom. Here's our upper bracket. That's going to line up with the 2 of the 4 holes that are in the top of the SumoSpring. We'll use 2 of the shorter 3/8 bolts, and those are going to thread right into weld nuts that are on the top of that spring. Then we can bring in a 9/16 wrench or socket, get that snug down. And then we'll just torque our bolts down here. So we're going to position the single hole that we've got there in our bracket right over the hole in the bottom of the SumoSpring, and we'll thread in another one of our short 3/8 bolts. Now we want this edge to be running parallel, or be running the same way that our bracket that's going to mate to our frame here is. So we just kind of position that where we want it, and we can tighten it on down. You can see the basics of what it's going to look like pre-assembled here. Got our upper bracket that's going to mount right to our frame, and our lower bracket here. Let's go ahead and take it underneath the RV, get it in position, and we'll start getting it installed. Now we'll take our 4-inch carriage bolts. We're going to slide those right through the 2 square holes closer to that hook on our bottom plate. Now we're going to put it in place. We'll make sure the U-bolt, we want 1 on this side and 1 on the inside of the spring there. And then we also want to make sure that our small hook is going to go around the U-bolt. We want that to be hooked in behind it on this back side. And we'll just slide that down until that hook makes contact with our U-bolt. And we bring in our plate. We want the flat side up. And we're going to put one of our 3/8 locking flange nuts on each. Now let's snug those down. And then we'll torque those down. Now what we want to do is find the center point of our frame. So we're going to measure from the flat top to the flat bottom. So that's going to be about 9 1/4. So to split that, we're going to go to about 4 5/8 of an inch. Let's make a mark on each side of our upper bracket here. Now you're going to notice here that our hole on that bottom side, that lower hole, is just slightly below that yellow line. So what we're going to do is gently raise our axle, being careful not to tilt the vehicle or anything, but just gently raise that axle up just a little bit to get that first line, or that first hole, to be right in the middle of that line, or kind of be centered with it. I'll just raise that axle up just a little bit. And you see there, we've got it where it's just about centered in our hole location there. So now we'll take our 25/64 drill bit, and let's put a hole right there through our upper bracket. We'll get it taken care of. Of course, we want to check around the back side there. Want to make sure we don't have any wiring or anything like that that we might get into. About 2 inches once I go through there, there's going to be a little bit, so I'm going to be really careful when I punch that hole through. I don't want to go in too far and catch that wiring. Now we'll take one of our 3/8 bolts. That's going to go right through the hole we just created. We're going to put one of those 3/8 flange nuts on the back. Let's go ahead and just snug that down. We're not going to over tighten it. You see we've still got some movement room in there, just to snug it down and keep that bracket from moving in and out. And now on our front hole there, you can see it still needs to come up a little bit, so go ahead and lift that axle just a little bit more. That should be good. Let's go ahead and our hole there taken care of. Once we've got that set, we can move on and take care of our 2 topmost holes. We'll be drilling holes there and also putting in the same hardware. All right, well, we got our holes drilled out. We'll finish it up by putting our 2 bolts in the top here. Put our flange nuts on the back, and then we'll tighten them all down and get them torqued. All right, with everything torqued down, that's going to complete today's installation of the SumoSprings Maxim Custom Helper Springs. Part number SSR-183-54-1 on our 2015 Ford F53 Tiffin.